Hey guys, I already tried to make a video about this once just before, but it came out way too convoluted, so I'm just going to try and not beat around the bush and get straight into it. I just wanted to have a quick word on spiritual seeking, because from some of my videos I think it's quite clear that I have an interest in that. I've mentioned it a few times, and also in quite a lot of comments people leave their suggestions and their thoughts on spirituality and what teachers they find helpful and all sorts of stuff. So I just wanted to share just a word on that, on the whole spiritual journey, spiritual seeking, and how I think I'm kind of in quite a different place than I was, especially in my early 20s when it comes to this, because I got really heavily into the search. I mean, like I've said, I've always had this kind of feeling about the world, although I'm starting to realise that, that's, I'm learning about cognitive functions and stuff, maybe why that is, but at the same time it is a genuine, feeling and wanting to know about what exists beyond the pale of what we see every day. And especially in my late teens and early 20s, I got really quite heavily into this, and I read countless books on spirituality, and I have kind of continued that largely through my 20s. And I tried many different things, techniques, meditations, teachers, and I just really enjoyed it. And was just fascinated by it. I also kind of started seeking out friendships and people that I could talk to about those types of things, and really enjoyed just talking and going on different workshops and trying different things, anything that could lead to being more spiritual or developing spirituality. And how I feel now is there is always a danger, well not so much a danger, because I don't take it quite that seriously as I used to, but there is quite an easy way to become confused in the fact that you can start to think that you are a very spiritual person because you seem to find yourself in that world. All the stuff you read is spiritual, all the videos on YouTube you watch are spiritual, the conversations you have are spiritual, yet you are still human. And there are certain things that come with being a human and living with the human condition that are always going to be there. And I've seen some quite interesting cases of people who have gone off quite early in life on this spiritual search because they felt pulled towards it. And only 20 years later did they realise that actually maybe there were things they still wanted to do and live out in the world, in the material world, in this world that, this fleeting world of forms. And, I've seen this a lot with some of the people actually, who develop this almost spiritual ego, and they take it so seriously, and, you go to like meditation retreats and there's people who are just like, they're so in that kind of that zone, and I guess if that's honestly where that's coming from their heart, and that is what they want, and that's what they truly are moving towards, that with sincere determination, that's great. Yet sometimes I feel that it is, just like I say, it has become another part of their personality, or it has become a means to identify with. And I kind of noticed this within myself a bit, and that's why I've kind of taken a step back and had to be very honest with myself. And I've also realised that there are certain things that sometimes, especially when it comes to kind of meditating and stuff, it can almost become a form of escape. Almost become a form of escape from things in your life that you would rather not face. And after having some recent experiences where I've actually been facing those things head on, outside of the realms of kind of spiritual seeking, and having pretty amazing experiences with that, it's made me kind of question it's basically, this is it, okay? I said I was going to stop beating around the bush, but I am going around the bush. So it's this: I feel, in terms of spiritual seeking, spirituality, whilst everyone is going to be different and going to have different preferences and different temperaments and whatever it is, and going to have different experiences from their life, this is how I feel. I feel that the best thing to do, and people might really disagree with this, this is kind of through personal experience and what I've come to understand, is to, one, stop being so hard on yourself on the things that you feel are holding you back from some kind of spiritual grand liberation or whatever. You know, stop treating them as things that you have to overcome, whether it's karma or sankharas or whatever it is. Be kinder towards those aspects of yourself. Understand them. Delve into them. And see them for what they are. Secondly, if you are very honest with yourself, are there still things within this world, within this materialistic world, within this impermanent world, that you still feel drawn towards? Are there still desires there that maybe you thought were desires that you needed to fight against or suppress? But actually, if you're honest with yourself, maybe you just want to experience, you know? And be honest with yourself, you know? I would say it's far better for you to be honest with that. Go out into the world and maybe you, you know, maybe you want to go have sex with a bunch of people, okay? Because you feel deep down you really desire that. Go out, do it. Maybe you want to make a heap of money because actually you would quite like to experience what it would be like to have money. Maybe you've never had it in your life before and you'd quite like to experience it. Maybe it's because you want to actually buy that car because you feel that driving it would be an incredible experience. You know, maybe you want to just go crazy and party for a while and experiment with that. Whatever it is you feel honestly drawn towards, or you feel that there is something inside yourself that you feel you're always going to have to be fighting because it's kind of like you feel like it's this weakness you have, I would say explore that. Obviously with awareness, you know, because the funny thing is when you almost stop resisting those things, you know, this is what you resist persists basically. So when you stop the resistance, one or two things will happen. One, you'll realise that yes, you do enjoy doing this, and you feel relieved that you've allowed yourself to do it, without having to feel any feelings of guilt or shame. And two, you might realise that what it was that was drawing you towards this, maybe this was, you know, feelings of gratification, satisfaction, desire, happiness, whatever it was that was drawing you towards this, once you've allowed yourself to experience it, you realise that maybe what you hoped to gain from this doesn't feel like how you imagined. Maybe it is a bit shallow. You know, maybe you enjoy it for a while, but it's like, you know, that feeling of when you've eaten too many sweets and you start to feel a bit kind of sick from it. And that will almost then allow you to fully dive into whatever spiritual path it is that you feel pulled towards, without any guilt, without any shame, without any repression that might, you know, trip you up in the future. And one of the most interesting things I've realised is when you read any kind of books or stories of kind of very spiritual people in the past, you know, these grand figures, and you look at their lives, so often a lot of them, they came from backgrounds that were not spiritual. I mean, even the Buddha, the Buddha, you know, Gautama the Buddha, he was a prince. He lived in luxury. He could do anything to, like, every whim, every desire. He didn't even embark on a spiritual search until he was like 28 years old. You know, he had experienced that world. He realised that there was, even through experience, everything a man could desire, there was still a longing within him. And that meant he could go on that path and devote himself to it 100% without distraction. Okay? It reminds me of that experiment, that famous experiment that they've done with children, where they'll have a young child in a room sitting in front of a table, and on that table there'll be a marshmallow, and the adult will say, I'm going to leave the room now for 5-10 minutes. If I come back and that marshmallow is still there, you'll get a second one. But the marshmallow still has to be there. So they leave the room, and the child, you know, sits there and they're looking around and they're doing their best. You can see it on their face. They're doing their best not to even look at that marshmallow. You know, the temptation is there, and they're trying to be good. You know, they're trying to, but sometimes it only takes even just a couple of minutes in, and it becomes too much, and you see their eyes becoming transfixed on it, and you see them starting to kind of fidget, and then they can't, you know, they can't help themselves. And that's how I feel. If you embark on a kind of a spiritual journey early on in your life, when maybe you haven't allowed yourself to fully live yet, or to maybe explore yourself in this world, then you're almost setting yourself up for that kind of failure. You know, it could be 10 years down the line, it could be 20 years down the line, who knows, but maybe there'll come a point and you're just like, it's too much. And so I would say the best thing is maybe to do it the other way around, but with an awareness of why you're doing it. And that, the funny thing is, since I've started to feel like that myself and realised that for myself, I feel a great sense of relief, and also, strangely, I feel like that feeling to being drawn towards something else is kind of arising in me in a more organic way, you know, without having to feel like I need to go and read this spiritual book or watch this spiritual teacher or whatever. It just feels like it's arising in me in a more natural way. And I'm saying I'm anywhere near anything in terms of developed spirituality or anything like that, and that's cool, you know, because I'm honest, I'm starting to realize there's still things out there that I want to explore, I want to do, and you know, if it has nothing to do with spirituality, that's fine. So there you go. I just wanted to share my thoughts on that, because maybe it might be helpful for some other people. It's just how I feel, and it's where I am. Alright, talk to you tomorrow.